Hey crafty friends, Einat Kessler here with Saturday Mixtravaganza. Thank you very much for joining me. And today we are going to create a Halloween altered spell book. So I have here an old book that I don't need. It's in Hebrew, but it doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is alter this book and make it a really spooky spell book. So I have here a plastic skull and my low temp hot glue gun. You can use a high temp, it doesn't really matter, just less painful when you get it on your fingers. And I'm gonna start with just attaching my skull to the front of the book, and then I'm going to use the glue gun, the hot glue gun, to create a spider's web and all the lines that you need to have, and those tiny lines in between. It's almost like drawing, but with a hot glue gun, which is actually not as simple as I thought it would be, because first of all, the hot glue doesn't always come out at the same amount. You press, but you know, it has a mind of its own. Second, it's not as easy to control as a pencil or a pen. But just bear in mind that it's a craft. It's something that we're going to cover later, and it doesn't have to be very accurate. And we do want the texture and all those little hairs of glue that are coming out too. So don't stress about it. It's going to look even better when it's sort of not accurate and not very uniform. Looks more natural and more spooky. So I'm just creating my lines here on the spider's web. And I just need to press a little bit harder sometimes when the glue does not cooperate. And I have to insert some new glue, so I'm pushing the new one with one hand while pressing out the old with the other hand, so the new one can take its place. Otherwise you can press and nothing happens. This is a really excuse me, this is a really small glue gun that I got for like I think $3 or something at Michael's. I have a bigger, better glue gun, but since it's bigger, it's a bit more difficult to navigate and to work with. So even though this one is kind of small and sometimes the glue doesn't come out properly and all that, it's still more comfortable for me to work with this one. So what I'm trying to say is just use whatever is more comfortable to you. So keep on with the lines of the spider's web here. And the hot glue is a great way to add texture when you want to add texture to something. Of course, you always need to cover it because it's transparent and has no color. But you can also write with it or add other shapes. If you're not making a Halloween project, it can be any other shape that you want, of course. The glue sometimes needs a little bit of help. Now that when you're done, make sure to let it dry completely. Now everything is dry, and I have here some damp paper towels that we're gonna cover the book with, and some Mod Podge. And basically what I'm going to do is just glue the towel. I'm gonna add some glue down there before Now because the paper towel is damp, just putting glue on top will not be enough. You need to add glue on the book itself and then on top of the towel as well. Make sure that you apply glue to all the corners and nooks and crannies, because we want the paper towel to cover it properly, and we want all those spider web lines to show. So we would need something to hold them while we attach the paper towel. And of course I'm using a brush, that's the best way. And we do want it to wrinkle, we don't want it to be straight, because again that adds to that look that we want to get. And sometimes the paper towel doesn't cooperate because it's damp, but it's best to have it damp when you cover your book, because it's much more flexible and it will be much easier to keep the pattern of those lines. Because if you would use a wet, dry paper towel, it won't be as flexible, and then you might lose a bit of the pattern. It won't be as clear as this one is going to be. So just push the paper with your brush. I'm using a hard bristle brush. So you push the paper to against those lines. Make sure that you don't miss any corner or angle. Also push the paper around the skull so the lines will be clear and the shape will be visible. Doesn't matter if the towel tears a little bit, it's fine. We're gonna cover it. It won't show, so don't stress about that. And it doesn't look like much, I agree, but it's gonna be great, trust me. So just make sure you cover everything with the Mod Podge and you push this paper to all the nooks and crannies in the spider web that you created with your hot glue. And once that's done, of course this entire project takes a while, because you have to make sure that each step that you do is completely dry. Otherwise, if the glue is not dry, then you can't cover it with a wet paper towel, because it will destroy the texture. And then if you don't wait until the Mod Podge is dry, then you can't paint it, etc., etc. So be patient, it takes a while. I'm now covering the back side of the book. Again, I love the wrinkles. I love it when it's not straight. It has a more leathery look this way. Now once that's dry, have to wait until this is dry, and then we can wrap the inside of the book like you would wrap any other book that you're covering. In the same way that we did the front and the back. You first apply glue onto the inside of the cover, and then fold your paper towel and cover it with some Mod Podge. This way we're going to have a very clean look around the edges, because it's going to be folded inside and not just torn. So I'm just tearing that piece so it will be easier to fold. And once that's done, again you have to make sure it's dry before we can continue. with our next step, and I'm just going to finish that and tear away those little two pieces of paper. Make sure I have a nice clean finish on there too, and let it dry like this so the pages of the book will not touch the cover, otherwise they'll stick to them. So now everything is dry. It doesn't look much, right? We are going to paint it with black acrylic paint. Make sure it's completely dry, otherwise you'll get paint mixed with Mod Podge, and that's not a good thing. So again, use a hard bristle brush because we need to push that paint to all the nooks and crannies of the pattern that we created. You know, there is a raised pattern now on the book, on the front of the book. And also paint the edges and a little bit on the inside of the cover, like this. Just gonna put something that's gonna stand on it and make it easier for it to dry. And you just go over everything. Make sure you cover it completely, and you can now start to see all those wrinkles and a little bit of the spider's web pattern. A little bit. Again, it's still not nice, it's still not impressive enough, but don't worry, it's going to be. And I'm just gonna paint the front cover first and wait until it's dry, and then paint the back side of the cover, because if I'm going to turn it now, it's going to ruin the paint. Okay, time to wait until it's dry. Oop, got stuck a little bit. Now I can do the other side. This side is a bit faster because you don't have a raised pattern that you need to push the paint into. So you just quickly paint everything with the black acrylic paint. It's a really nice thick color. So you only need one coat. I only did one coat of paint and it was enough. If you use a slightly thinner color, you might need to do 2 coats, but this one coat was enough. And again, try to be patient while you wait until this side is dry. And then we can continue with the fun part. Now you have now it's everything is dry. You have to have Inca gold or some kind of gold paste, and I'm just applying a little bit on my finger and going over the raised parts of the pattern of the spider web, and this is going to really bring that to life and really make it pop. And this is going to create that effect that we're looking for, that is going to be very striking. Now you can do this with a brush, but I prefer using my fingers, and I don't care that it goes a little bit over the sides. Again, imagine that witch that has that spell book and she made it herself, or she got it from her great grandmother, and it's old and it's not as pretty and accurate. And I'm using a Q-tip to emphasize the eyes and the mouth of the skull because my finger is too small to fit in there. And now I can go ahead and continue with the other parts. And it's very easy to find where those lines are, because they do stick out and they pop out. And I'm going to go around the edges of the cover too, and it's starting to look really nice. And I'm going to go a little bit on the other parts of the book too, make everything really uniform. Now what I'm going to do is add another color. I'm going to use a little bit of brown acrylic paint and a dry brush, and just add it in between the lines and on the back cover too, and wiping off the excess with a paper towel. Now this is one way of doing it. I just wanted to show you two ways, but I actually prefer another way of doing this, and that is with a piece of cloth. I hold the cloth with my finger, and that gives me a bit more control of where the paint goes and how much paint I'm using. So I'm just going to get that towel now. It's an old kitchen towel that I'm using, and I'm just using my finger to rub a little of the brown acrylic paint to all the surfaces that I want, and I'm using a cleaner part of the towel to wipe the excess off. So this gives me a little tiny bit of brown on that black and gold, and it's just another dimension of the color. I don't want the color to be too uniform, so just adding a little bit of brown makes it a bit more realistic and spooky. So I'm just adding some brown to the parts of the book, to the cover. Looks really good. Now while I'm doing that, I'm thinking that we're going to need probably a second video, because I feel like doing something on the inside of the book too. So on this video we're going to prepare the book, and then I'm going to have a second part of the video to finish it and do the inside, and maybe add a little bit something more to the outside as well. I don't know yet. I'm going to go in with some more Inca gold just to add a little bit more gold. And look at that. Isn't that pretty? The layering of the color is really added that realistic look to it. And now you can see the pattern in all its glory, and see how that wrinkling effect is so cool. Looks like leather on this on the cover. Just gonna add a little bit to the back too, just a little tiny bit. So like I said, we're going to prepare the inside of the book, but we're going to finish it next time. So what we're going to do now is cover the inside of the cover with the first and last pages of the book. So we're going to have a nice finish to the book. Now my brush has a little bit of brown color on it, but it's okay. I don't care. We're going to cover everything later anyway, so, and this is going to be glued down to the cover, so we're not going to see any of it. So I'm taking the first two pages and I'm covering the inside of the front cover, and the last two pages are going to cover the inside of the back cover. Does that make sense? I hope so. So this one, for some strange reason, did not glue properly, so we're gonna have another go at it. So I'm using 2 pages, so it's going to be nice and easy. Want to make it straight and tight. Okay, again, you need to let it dry. Just gonna put something to separate those pages from the cover later. Now I'm going to add a little bit of tacky glue onto my glue tray here, which I got from a package of I don't know what, but it's just cardboard, and once I'm finished with it, it's going to the bin. And for some strange reason, it's really hard to take out the tacky glue, and I'm just gonna mix it with a little bit of acrylic paint because I don't want the glue to be white, so I want it to be a little bit brown. And what I'm gonna do now is glue all the pages together. So once they are all really held together tightly, you just take the brush and apply the glue on the side, and that will make all the pages join together to one big block of pages. So it's going to be really cool. You're going to see what we'll do with that next time. Just make sure you have everything glued properly on the side, on all 3 sides. And then you have to make sure that it's, again, dries properly and doesn't stick to the cover. So just put something to leave it separated. Okay, so once that's a little bit dry, I can go ahead and take a little bit of distress ink and ink the inside of the cover and the first and last pages. And this will be the end of this video because we need everything to dry, and it will be ready to continue next time. So that's the back side. Just distressing it a little bit. Preparing it for next week. So this is basically done. I hope you like this project. It's not finished yet, but still it's going to be fabulous, but it's even nice now. So I hope you liked it and you were inspired and you're getting ready for Halloween. And I want to encourage you to visit my website, www.anatkessler.com. You have the exact spelling at the end of the video, and I hope that you'll visit there. You get a lot of inspiration, a lot of tips, you get classes there, and a lot of printables you can get, a lot of free ideas and tips that you can use. Please go and take a look. So here's our finished book. See all that fabulous texture that we created? Nice, right? And this is going to be prepared for next time. So I want to thank everyone for joining me. Visit my website and subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Recommend to a friend to subscribe to. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.